And welcome back to the Lost Info Podcast. As always, it's keeping you awake, Jake.
And Jake.
So today we have a case file, Bruno Borges. And this one actually is a very interesting story. I didn't really look. I briefly heard about it maybe a couple years ago or so. Never really looked into the details or anything like that. This one was Jake too on the case file that he wanted to do. The more I looked into it, it literally was like every 10 minutes, I was just more intrigued, and just started falling deeper and deeper into what the fuck this story is really going on here.
Yeah, so it's incredibly interesting, and it really it opens the doors to a lot of different things, from time travel to alien abduction.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of voids where you can like input your own thought or possibilities, which there's a lot that could be. But I think the most interesting part to me was like what he's proclaiming to be or what he is doing, you know, as far as philosophy. And I got in an argument with somebody when I was talking about this case file, because people write him off. And as we go in, we'll get more into it. But I was just think, why are we so quick to write off somebody that claims to be a philosopher in this day and age? We don't have philosophy. We don't have Aristotle's. We don't have Giordano Bruno. We don't have a lot of what made, you know, Socrates.
Right.
Everything that made humans human as far as creation and getting past the in the box thought. Now we just don't accept it.
Well, it's because, in my opinion, it's just because you have, once we put it out there and we say this is the you know, numbers or whatever the idea is,
right?
Those great philosophers, we're so stubborn that if we open the door to saying, well, there's many more people that are much more smarter nowadays than they were. Like, you have to look at it from the angle, if I was born with if could you imagine if Socrates was born with all of the information that we had now on top of what he had already known then? Like,
yeah, I know.
And that's what we have geniuses and philosophers and these people that are being born.
I mean, we have
day.
Great thinkers in this era, obviously,
but they're not looked at.
But they're not
way.
Philosophers per se, and they're not leading the pack on new and inventing thoughts.
Exactly, right.
And so
they're perfecting the things we already have.
I think yeah, exactly. And I think the whole just writing this guy off and instantly joking this guy out of existence because he proclaims to be a philosopher and studied philosophy. Like, I mean, I don't know where we'd be without, you know, the greatest thinkers getting people past that outside thinking in order for new inventions and new ideas. And so this Giordano Bruno, the philosopher that he claims that he is, you know, was, and now is reincarnated in Bruno Borges, is that this guy was one of the very first ones to talk about other planets and other alien beings and things like that. So yeah,
cosmos.
So one of like who, if I had a discussion with back in the day, we would have been fucking sitting there for weeks just talking. Like, me and him would have been having conversations.
Right.
And then, you know, of course, at the time, and you might want to pound search that. Let me hold on, make sure I'm on the right sounds here for you. But yeah, if you pound search that, he was burned at the stake because of his beliefs. Obviously, if it didn't go with Christianity and Catholicism, I mean, you were fucked.
Hell, Galileo was threatened with the Spanish Inquisition. They were threatening him for the same thing.
Well,
if he didn't give up his beliefs of the stars, even though he was right.
Yeah.
Hundreds, it's proven that everything he was saying was right. But the king said, look, well, we'll burn you at the stake unless you want to change your beliefs of your entire scientific knowledge.
Yeah,
so that's what we do to great thinkers.
Yeah, and I was going to say it's happened since the beginning of time,
right.
which is even worse then. Like, you really suffered the consequences then. So to really be who you are and what you believe was pretty honorable, and you had to have a ton of courage back then for sure, because you were definitely facing a gruesome death.
Right.
But so, you know, like I say, he was one of the first ones to think about the extraterrestrial realm and whatever else. So like, to me, like, he, you know, and I'm gonna have to look more into him now. Like, I want to get more information on the actual philosopher himself at the time and some of his things. Some of the quotes that I heard, it's just like, I don't even know who talks like that. Even this Bruno, Borges is some of the language that he uses to describe where he's at in thought is just kind of like mind blowing in itself. So let's get into the story though, so that we're not keeping you guys, giving you all the back end, keeping you guys waiting for the good stuff. So Bruno Borges, you can search up the story along with us. I don't even know, was it 2017? So
that he had came. Yeah, it's just not too far back. It's just quite recently.
I think it was 2017 when all this happened.
Right.
I don't remember and I didn't see the dates and times per se. But anyway, this guy, he was a philosophy student, and I guess he was super smart. His mom claims that he was reading books at a rate to where it was alarming, and said something by the age of like 6 or 8 that he had finished the Bible and like just like crazy stuff. Now, I don't know. Did he retain all that? I'm not sure. Did he actually read it? I don't know. But I mean, it'd be hard to say that if your kid was just sitting there like flowing through books all day, like he was just doing it to flip pages. You know what I mean? I think that you would have to actually be interested as a kid to even sit on the floor for hours with a book. So he was supposedly very, very smart, way ahead of his time. Went to college. He was working part-time job. He was doing all kinds of things. He came across. Now it doesn't get very specific in when he came across Giordano Bruno, which was the philosopher of ancient times. But he had came across him, and then he had started making. And I don't know if this was naturally that it just happened, and maybe that's why the connections were being made. But at one point, he started making connections between his name, the way they think, the way they believe, and then he started believing like, holy shit, this is me in a past life, or just knew that it was him in a past life. I'm not sure how that came about. However, then it started to ramp up in. Well, I mean, he already gained a lot of knowledge because he's already read a ton since he, until he got to college. But then it started ramping up, and he said he was working on a secret project, and he couldn't tell anyone about it. And even his mom was curious, like, "Hey, what's going on? What are you up to?" But I mean, like, you got to give him the benefit of the doubt because he's already smart. He's already proved himself in school. So it's like, all right, I don't know what this guy's doing, but he's my son. I trust him. So she didn't really
asking for. He was asking around in his family for donations.
Yeah. He
to help fund it, this secret project.
Well, his mom was, I guess, reluctant. Kind of like, well, and at the time he didn't say what he asked her for, but he said, I need money for the secret project. She said, well, what is it? He said, I can't tell anybody. And so he wouldn't tell. And she said, I mean, I think like any kid or parent and kid at that time is like, hey, my kid's in college and he wants a ton of money. Like, you're going to have to tell me what that's for, because you could go on, a Vegas vacation. You could get some hookers. You could get some drugs. I mean, it's hard to say when you're in college what you're trying to get money for. So if I was a parent, I'd be like, well, I'm going to have to know.
Right.
I'm going to have to know if it's a decent amount of money, what you're trying to do here. Anyway, he wouldn't tell her. He said it was a secret project. He couldn't. And so she did give in to the fact that she said, you can quit your job while at college so that you can work towards whatever you're doing. And so she kind of gave him leeway, which seems to be, it's a very supportive family, because if you're going to like say at a college student, hey, I'll let you take off of work. I mean, obviously you're forcing him to be his best. If you're sending him to college, he's already brilliant, and you're making him work and then allowing him to take off work to pursue a goal. So I think it's a supportive family. I think like there's a lot of whole things on why she didn't give him the money, if she didn't trust him or whatever else. I just think it was just a good parent being a good parent. But anyway, he continued on, and he ended up, and nobody knew this till later on, but ended up going to a relative of his, a first cousin, and
Eduardo Veloso.
Is that what his name was? You can kind of search that. But he had asked him for the money, And again, he said, well, what is it for? I'm not going to give that kind of money. And I guess it comes out to $6,500 is what he was asking for in US dollars. And down in Brazil, it was
It's 20,000 of their
currency. Right.
But yeah, it's Eduardo Veloso, Veloso.
So I guess he did tell him a little from how the story goes. He told him.
But you would have to if he donated. So like if he's the
sole donator.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's over here like donating you significant amount of
money. He gave him poquito dinero.
Right. That means a little dinero.
Yeah.
That means a little money.
Oh yeah.
You're talking about $6,000.
Yeah, a little. No, he gave him a little knowledge for a lot of money. But anyway, nobody says what he actually told, what he was working on. He did tell him from the story. I do remember one part. He did say that whatever he told on the specifics, he did say that this was going to change the world. So it was like, I guess, like, I don't know what his cousin does, but like, hey, I'll be in ground zero on this, you know? So he did get that money. Well, then time goes by a little bit. His parents decide to go on a vacation. And unlike the United States, other cultures and countries take their vacations seriously. It's more like we don't just work to die and work for the man. So they went on a 20-day vacation, which to me, that's how you should do it if you can.
Well, that's how you're supposed. That's how they do it over there and everywhere else except for America.
You go enjoy.
Like, that's the holiday, right? Everybody goes on 3 months.
You go and enjoy your time. Yeah.
America, we give you a week and say get back to work. Like this is crazy.
So they were enjoying their time. In this 20 days, Bruno decides to unleash the animal within. Now, I guess
his room took a massive makeover.
And I guess he wrote the books before this, but it doesn't say how long it took him to write 14 books, and it doesn't say how long before this incident he wrote them that I could find.
There's things about his room that I would have to imagine he had written them for a while and they had been there, which I just don't understand how nobody like notices anything.
So while his parents were gone, his sister claims that he was barely out of his room, like going about in there, doing all kinds of crazy stuff, up all hours of the night. He barely came out to get a little bit to eat and then went back in. And so basically 24 days, he did all this in 24 days. Now, so to put into words is going to be hard, but you got to go and pound search this Bruno Borges' room.
2017, by the way, you were correct. It's March 27th, 2017. He disappeared.
And so this room is, I mean, like, so you're either thinking one of two things if you're the parent. You're like, you either walk in this room and say, holy fuck, we fucked up, or holy shit, our kid's a genius.
Holy cathedral.
Yeah.
Like you walked in the room and it literally looks like somebody's like there's gonna be like a sacrificial lamb on an altar.
Exactly. So I was gonna say it could be two different ways. If you didn't understand any of it or what he was or who he was doing and he was a good person, you'd be like, oh shit, he just joined a cult.
Yeah,
and we're all going.
That's the only thing that comes to mind when you're looking at these things.
He opened a portal to hell in here.
But that's our human brain.
Right. Now
our human brain can't understand that. Now, if I was extraterrestrial,
and knowing the philosopher, so the statue is in the very center of the room in some kind of,
and they bear a very striking resemblance to each other.
And so the statue is of the philosopher,
right? But their
Giordano
physical features are quite remarkable. It's pretty close.
So this is where the story kind of starts to take another deeper dive, because when you go through this room, the statue is life size in the middle of this room, and heavy, so you can't take it out. So they don't know how he got it in, and they thought, man, he'd have to have help to do this, which they didn't know at the time. Well, let me rewind just real quick. After the 24 days, and his parents had already came home from vacation, his dad was like, hey, where's Bruno at? And they were like, his sister's like, I don't know, he's been in and out of this room only to eat, this and that. Couldn't find him. So finally, after knocking so many times, the dad just breaks in the door. And this is what they found in the room. Now, at this time, Bruno's nowhere to be found. But this room, again, words don't describe what you're looking at. It's like,
I've seen some crazy things walking into I have 2 children, and I've seen some crazy things when I walk into their rooms. I would slowly back up without turning my back on this
Yeah.
room and shut the door on my way out.
I was gonna say
while
some
saying
parents
this.
find like, you know, a stash of weed and some
Right.
pornos.
You might, no.
This is like, whoa,
this
fuck.
this is literally like this is beyond this world. Like we don't like
It is beyond words to describe. I think if you were the parent, like if you put yourself in the place, you're gone for 20 days, you haven't seen him in another 4, all of a sudden you're like, hey, where's Bruno? I want to see him, you know, since we're home. Break in this door and like there's no bed, there's no nothing. Everything that makes it look like a room is gone. It looks like an art display.
Like an art display or like
in a museum
like a prayer
or something.
room.
Yeah,
or
a ritual.
Like, ritualistic room. Like it has.
So
we'll pull up more pictures to show more, but please search what his room looked like. Like it was just literally just tables.
So
with
in
books,
the background
with his handwritten books.
Yeah, and if you're watching on the YouTube, in the background right here is a self-portrait of him and this alien figure with his hand on his shoulder that he painted, which, if anything, if he's not a philosopher, he's definitely an artist.
And the rest of this, though, is all writing that he had done.
Yeah, all around the edges.
And his entire room, all 4 walls were written with this encrypted language.
So some of it was his books, and some of it was, I think, in Portuguese writing, and then some of it was cryptid text of some sort. Now they were able to decipher a part later on in the investigation, but it was like a very small part, and it was basically just like numbers that correlated to letters and whatever else. Not too complex of a cryptid thing, but there was an organization, you have to pound search it. I can't remember what they're called now, and I didn't write it down the other day when I was looking at more of this, but there is a group, I want to say it's like SETI or some, I don't know, something. But anyway, they basically have a group on the internet that they look for people that can solve crazy puzzles, and a lot of this goes into some of that, and some of the cryptid stuff that they deciphered went into being part of this group, or maybe this group had sought him out after maybe his books after this incident. But there's a lot of weird things that it's kind of up for perception unless you talk to him. I guess there was an interview when all this came to a head, but I haven't seen it, so, and I couldn't find it. Anyway, so walks into this room. This room is by far crazy. This painting's on the wall with an alien and them in robes. I mean, if you didn't have any idea of his philosophy or that he was a good person or trying to change the world for the better, you would instantly think cult, and this is a ritual, and there's a portal of hell in here that was opened. Because it looks crazy. It looks bizarre because we're not used to it. But then it basically goes on to, they go and tell the police come in, take pictures of this whole room, kind of like, all right, so when's the last time anybody's seen him? You know, it's been like 4 or 5 days. So they do go file a missing persons. So then they start doing an investigation. Well, they found the taxi driver that had picked him up outside of his house, and he had took him to this hotel. And if anybody knows anything about this hotel, pound search it, I don't remember the name of it. In the back of this hotel, there's a wooded area that has what locals find as a ritual area where people come and spend long hours and nights and whatever else.
Which is what I don't really quite understand.
So there was 4 white chairs, 1 red chair around a fire, and I think they said in the local tradition that it was some kind of, I don't know, paranormal phenomena energy is in this area. Right. And so they do these prayer seances, rituals, like a lot of people use this for different things, just because it's I guess you get results in this area.
Well, there's definitely that goes into another episode for sure, but there's definitely certain places around the world, I believe, that are higher frequency zones.
Well, yeah, we talked about that in with the energy ley lines and
exactly.
And I do believe
that may be what that is that that's just a zone, like an area.
I think it was just widely known, and like maybe it came from ancient culture and it was passed down through, you know, people in the community. Like this area is, you know, ancient burial grounds that has a lot of energy. You can talk to the other side and whatever. I don't know. But apparently he
high
did.
frequency zone. Like,
But apparently he knew about it because it ended up being right behind the hotel that he was dropped off at.
ironic, yeah.
And he ended up not being in this hotel. He was missing. So they started furthering the investigation. The investigation kind of gets weird because then they find throughout all this stuff. Now, they were trying to decipher the room at the same time, mind you. And so they were kind of like, what the fuck is all this? How do you get this statue in here? What are these things saying?
Yeah, the fact that he got a 6-foot statue into his home with excuse me, with nobody noticing.
Well, it goes into that.
How did you get your bed out of the house with
Well,
nobody
the
noticing?
investigation
Your
goes
dresser.
to finding the artist of the statue. And they found him and they go and talk to him. And he claimed that Bruno came to him and told him his whole thing and said, I need 3 cloaks. And this was a dressmaker, by the way. But he said, I need 3 cloaks, which are these robes or garments that they're wearing in the picture behind us. If you're on YouTube, if not, it's basically like a monk's outfit, but white. So he made him I take that back. Hold on. The statue maker had said, I'll do this for you for a cheaper price because he had said, I do believe that you're the philosopher from the 1500s or whatever it was.
Right.
And I'll give you a discount.
Actually was believing what Bruno was saying.
And it was $2,700 to make this statue in US dollars. So there's still a lot of money left over in the $6,500 that he got. They get the statue in. It was brought in pieces, and then they filled it with wood, pebbles, and concrete,
and smoothed it all.
Filled it all in, and then finished it in the room.
They literally assembled it.
Yeah.
In the room.
Yeah. So, good luck on the parents reselling that house. Well, I mean, actually, it's probably worth more now, but that sucker's there to stay.
The statue is assembled.
It is part of the purchase if you buy that house. But I was kind of baffled too. Like, how the fuck did you get that?
How do you get your bed? How did you get the bed out of your room?
Yeah,
how do you move the bed out? How do you move your entire mattress and box spring and framing of your bed out of your house?
Yeah,
with nobody batting an eye.
And the
like,
sister,
oh,
I don't know if she was in or out. Like, she just claimed that he was never sleeping in the time that the parents were on vacation.
Yeah, but 20 days you would notice, even if her, like you said,
yeah, something.
She went to work. Maybe he planned it when she went to work.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
or if she's in school,
because he did. I mean, he's very
long
smart. Hours.
Yeah, he's very smart.
But anyway, so he went to a dressmaker to get these robes. He also said he needed 3 robes, blah blah blah, and then the dressmaker quotes in the investigation said, what do you need these for? Something religious. And he said something like that is what the quote was from him.
This is beyond religion.
So it was more, I think, in those words, something like that means a spiritual quest and way beyond your religion, what you know is religion.
Well, yeah, because religion in this world is literally as far as our little feeble human brains can understand. Like, because religion, religion's not,
yeah,
like, it's not a real thing. It's just
this is the
masses.
Part where I was listening to another podcast. I won't mention it, but they just started ripping on Bruno. Is like, oh, this is where he was starting his cult, getting the robes to go and recruit people, and I mean, like, I
think he's deeper than it's not a cult.
But, and the thing is, to me, it's like, if especially in this realm of podcasts, like, we're talking about conspiracies, we're talking about paranormal, we're talking about phenomenons that are crazy, unexplained, abductions, everything else. And then you get to this story and the same people, some of the same kind of podcasters just can't buy that this guy was on a mission
and he was on it, maybe
or
he was
reincarnated or whatever else. Like, it's just too far to grasp. I'm like, how?
Well, then what exactly why are you even in this realm of podcast?
Yeah, because it's like, this isn't hard to grasp at all.
Right.
We've talked about reincarnations, like that kid in Japan that was the fighter pilot told his whole crew what naval ship he came from,
said
where he went down. They found the plane.
People that were on the ship with him, and
they found the plane that was under the ocean where he said he crashed. Like,
how would he have known that without that? Yeah, like that's.
It's like,
I would completely agree.
So it's like, why is this out of realm of possibility and out of the pocket? Just why is this being
discredited when there's
so they started making fun of him. Like, at this point, there's a lot of, like, the story gets to, like, oh, he's just doing this hoax and blah, blah. I'm like, this is an extravagant hoax,
Right.
by the way. So even if you say that this cryptid text isn't too crazy to decipher, what it doesn't matter. Like he wrote 14 books. This guy has super knowledge, super smart, was since he was a kid, obviously a good artist, does this whole thing. Everything's got like a pentagram under the statue. Later on becomes that. And so anyway, the robes were made. He's gone, still missing, but there is no evidence of foul play. So they kind of just have to say, hey, he was 24. He can do whatever he wants. He's free to leave. We can't say this is a crime because we don't see a crime yet. And there was evidence by going to some of the friends' houses that this might have been planned by him. And the person that made the statue also claimed that when they came in and investigated him, he said, I knew you'd come here. He's fine. And they're like, what do you mean by that? They're like, well, he's doing something, but he's fine. So whatever his plan was, he had already kind of relayed it to an extent. So they said there was no crime. So they didn't follow this any further on that. Well, then the parents wanted to hire a psychic to try to locate him because they missed him. Well, this psychic said that when they connected to him, there was all kinds of conflicting things of the past and whatever was going on, like, I guess, like in his mind, what they could see or clips that they could see. And one thing that they had got, now I don't know, this is Pound Search, this is from, the story that was told by the parents, but the psychic had said that whatever he designed in his dwelling, which was his room, the thing that he was to open was a portal,
right?
And it was, they called them the Tall Whites, and so they were called the Tall Whites, which I might be Nordics or whatever else if you think about it in that sense, or like the Grays, but like a different shade, right, I suppose. But these Tall Whites were the ones, and this might be that guy in the back, was the ones that gave him the sacred knowledge that he was looking for. But they said that you had to basically do to the extent of what he did in his room and the studying and everything else, you had to ruin the knowledge of this world in order to gain the knowledge of the universe.
Right.
And so it was all about, philosophy and all this and that. And so what they told him, fast forward in time, he says that that's what he was doing was he had to go out into the dark lands. And I don't know what he means by that, whether it's just the world in general, our world, but go out to the dark lands to dive headfirst into the sea of consciousness in order to save his own consciousness, in order to find the philosopher's stone, which he said that that's what his main goal was, is that he had an idea where it was based on the knowledge that he was given and had to earn, and that he was out there searching for it. And he claimed something just like back in the day, a dragon slayer would go into the cave, into the depths of hell to get, whatever they needed or slay the dragon. That was the same thing, is that he said he would go to the depths, the dark lands, the caves, in order to gather the knowledge of the philosopher's stone, as far as what he quotes. So it gets pretty crazy in that part to me. Like, I just like,
that's what kind of goes off the rails a little bit.
It just keeps getting weirder.
Yeah, it keeps getting weirder, but what is there to substantiate what was found then? I want to see what you found.
Well, that's the thing, is so they go on to find in one of the rooms of a friend that they went in, they had found a letter that said, if you help me do this and whatever else, the books that I sell in the future. But I think he was already a philosopher, so he said that he wanted to give this knowledge to the world. So it was like, people like, oh, this is where the waters get kind of cloudy and muddy, is that now he's talking about prophets. Well, if you're a philosopher and you want to get your information to the world to try to change it, like, you would think that it would be beneficial and that people would buy the book, So he told his friend, like, help me with some of these things. And the contract was you get a portion of whatever money comes in off the books. But I think that's just helping a friend. He also told that to the statue maker. So it's like, and his cousin. So it was like, okay, everybody that's a part of this, they were like, oh, well, this was just a publicity stunt. And I thought, I mean, if it is, that's one, he's a genius for that. Like, That's
I need to hire him for my marketing.
Right. For the Lost Info podcast, right. Man. Like how,
like literally, like he absolutely, if he is not the head of marketing because of this publicity stunt.
Yeah. Like
we're talking about it still 4 years later.
Yeah. And I honestly, he did end up being in the top 24 bestsellers in Brazil. I mean, I don't know, you're not making a killing, but I mean, yeah, it's significant, but
how much money is a college student making?
Yeah, but I still don't think you do all this for book sales. Like,
it's not about book sales, in my opinion.
Either, I don't either. I just don't think you do all this for book sales.
Sole purpose of book sales.
If you were that, I mean, he was a smart kid. Let's give him that. But if you planned all this and literally went and got robes and came into like the details, like when he came home, a camera down the street had caught him coming down with like barely shorts and a t-shirt and barefooted. Like to add that detail into your story, to make sure you didn't come home in shoes and whatever else just to sell your books. Like you're a fucking genius. Like
I agree.
You thought about some very small, minute details that would push this farther. Going and getting 3 robes. Like, why would you do that if it was for book sales? Like you wouldn't have to add all that extra. Like, I don't know. To me, it's just, it's very odd.
If it was for book sales, I think also that the parents would have known more. It wouldn't have been done suspiciously while they were on holiday out,
well, there's a lot that claim that the parents would have had to been in on this.
That's what I'm saying. Again, the bed being removed from the room, the bookshelves and like dressers and clothes. Yeah. There was no clothes even in the room.
Well, and that's why, 3 robes. I think about it.
Minus the 3 robes, but like there literally was like socks, underwear, pants. Well, I mean,
if
t-shirts.
You're going out and they were saying, why do you need 3? Like if you're going out in the wilderness, like you want to change of clothes.
Where there's 2 of them right there.
And if you want
to maybe the 3rd one was for somebody he was taking with him.
Or if you get cold, you might want 2.
Or maybe the other 2 were the person that put money in on it, which was his cousin. And then the sculptor that made the statue. And
I
himself.
I find it 3 robes. Detail.
That's 3 robes.
Yeah.
So all 3 of you, because they definitely, the fact that this man gave him 20,000 of their currency, as well as this sculptor said, I'll sneak these into your house with you, and then build them and then assemble it in your house. I was
just thinking of it at the standpoint of if I ran away, I'd want to change of clothes, and if you're on a mission to like get enlightenment and you can't have the the cloth of this world or whatever, it has to be of a more sacred thing, which monks feel that way as well, then you'd want multiple things. Like you'd want, and if it got cold, you'd want to put 3 on, you know what I mean? Like your balls are hanging out.
I'm just saying there's 2 guys that are involved in this that we are just glazing over.
Yeah,
that could easily round out the 2nd and 3rd.
So it does like become weird.
The sculptor and the financier
yeah
have something involved in this more than just sculpting and financing.
Well, and they believed in him, so
clearly, because maybe maybe he was so prolific that
he showed him something.
If this is so real, show me, prove to me why I'm going to do it. And then they saw something and said, oh, you know what? I need to be a part of that quest with you.
Well, and that's the thing is like, now this is my standpoint. So if he could explain to me, if I could have a conversation with him and explain to me what this room entails, what's all this mean? How do I get here? How do I open these tall whites in the portal to talk to me? And you showed me any proof of that. Like, I'm buying into your shit too. Like we're going to change the world together.
Show me something.
But if you did, I'm changing the world with you. Like I'm
absolutely.
In. Like, all right, you've showed me that philosophy from ancient times. You've learned all these different things and relearned it. If you're the reincarnation and can open a portal or can show me some kind of proof that you are, Giordano Bruno. Well, fuck, I'm in too, man. Like,
I agree.
If you can show me something without no trickery, and I can see it firsthand.
No time.
And I'm your cousin and whatever else. I'm with you. If we're gonna, that's what we're trying to change the world on the podcast, spread information. But if you can show me some crazy shit out of this world, like ways and information and rituals and whatever else to bring in the good,
they would have had to have been given something.
Let's fucking do it. Is where I'm at. But anyway, the writing him off is where I think is like what he did. If it's publicity, like. Fuck, you should pay him. Buy the book because of just the genius of the publicity stunt. Like it's just, I just don't see that. I think that's way too much, man. I mean, there's never enough if you want to get recognized. But I figured that he did this for just book sales, like, you better go buy his fucking book. He deserves it. But if not,
I definitely want the translated versions of the 14.
we did just find that, by the way. Pound search that.
Right.
There is English versions on PDF.
We definitely need like to have those. Maybe
I'm so curious now that
link
I want
them
to
on our website, like having
yeah,
them.
actually we might put a link up on we'll put a link up on that too, because not only that, but I want to look into the philosopher Giordano Bruno and then read his PDFs just to see the correlations and whatever else, because
Right.
I'm pretty convinced that this is not just an interesting story. I think this is something else, because I mean, if you think about in time, I mean, and this is what gets me, fired up, is that we have all these people discrediting him, making it a hoax already because the internet says so, whatever else, all this and that, because we're so caught up in our fucking simpleton worlds. Back in the day, people did it all the time. They went and disappeared to lose themselves or to find themselves. I mean, Jesus went to Tibet and didn't come back till he was 33 and then was killed, if you want to believe in the Jesus story and everything else. He did the same thing. He disappeared to gather consciousness, rise his level of consciousness, understand himself, and then come back and give it to the world. There's been many others, Buddha, there's been Muhammad, there's been a ton through history that have done the same exact thing. They've disappeared to find themselves, to bring back ancient knowledge or universal knowledge. So it's like, that's not that crazy. That's not that crazy. This guy disappeared for 5 months. This guy had to go, even if he went in the cave and did fucking mushrooms and hallucinogenics, like, he lost himself in order to gain something that most people will never get a chance to in their life, because they can't take fucking 5 minutes out, let alone 5 months.
I agree.
By themselves. So that, to me, that part's, to write him off because he disappeared and like, oh, it's just for the books. Like, where the fuck this guy eat? Where'd he go? Nobody knew him. He was off the grid. Like, where the hell did he go? And how the fuck did he survive? And how did he come back barefooted? Like, there's a lot of questions in there. Sure, maybe he could have staged all that, I guess, but where the hell would he have hid for 5 months?
A lot of work to do for a 24-year-old college student.
Right. And the thing is that, like,
no transactions on his debit card,
and
no
the thing is, like,
correspondence on social media, nothing on his cell phone.
Well, and I don't think it was for solely book sales, because I mean, look at his fucking room.
You're talking about a 24-year-old college student that had
and this guy was obsessed with this mission. So
anywhere, online, anywhere.
Yeah, and prior to all this, they even said he was obsessed with the secret mission of changing the world. So, and I've been there, like, not to this level, but I mean, when I started thinking different at one point in my life, like, I was single, I literally would wake up at nights and write my dreams down. I had a table just full of fucking scribbles and pictures and paint and writings on things of dreams and things I wanted to do. And so this guy, like, is on steroids, a whole different level, but it's not crazy when you're filled with, like, motivation and passion and a direction. Like, I mean, that it doesn't seem crazy. It doesn't. I mean, I don't know. I'm on the side of, well, we'll get to there when we get off the fence, but I get passionate because with the stuff that I heard people just clowning on him and, like, completely wrote him off, I'm like, I don't know, man. This isn't just any ordinary hoax if it is. So it's just too good. I mean, like, you got too much involved in it. Like, there's too much to the story. Everything else, a lot of people wanted him to be charged with crimes because he used manpower from the police and whatever else investigation, but he never requested that. So it's like, fuck you. He never said,
right,
I'm missing. Everybody else did. And he even told the people that we're going to get investigated, make sure if anybody comes looking, I'm fine. I'm doing my thing. So fuck you. He shouldn't be charged.
Which made them look even more suspect.
So with the waters being muddied and everything else, I did find recently today, right before this, that he was offered a lot of branding of things and networks and a $50,000 check to come on to something. And he said no. So he turned down a lot of offers for profit.
Which refutes all of it was for book sales.
Yeah. But even if it is.
But if he's doing it for money, then why is he turning down all these money and multiple?
Let's say that you were a return prophet, or a philosopher from ancient times. You reincarnated. You now see that there's a digital world and that there's books and there's e-downloads. Like, if you're that smart already and now you're in a new body, you're gonna want your information out. That's what philosophers did. So
Yeah, but like they're like, then why wouldn't you go to the interview?
yeah, well, I would just, I mean,
Promote the book sale.
yeah,
like,
I was,
promote your
well, I
work
was gonna
getting
say, I don't know that I would stage all that. I don't think it's staged, but I do think he wants his book out. I do think that he knew that people were gonna see this room and be like blown the fuck away, because that's the whole point. Is that like,
But it wasn't
what's
it wasn't
going
for
on here?
monetary gain though. Is what
No,
I'm saying.
I
don't
think
was
that
for
it was just
monetary
like,
gain.
hey, I'm gonna go find myself, but I'm gonna put all my work on display, because when people come look, this might go viral and people might
Right,
see it on the
right.
internet, and they should, because I'm trying to change the world with it. So like, I'm gonna put a lot of effort into making this miraculous, which he did. So I see it as both, like not a stunt, but as like, hey, if I'm gone, I want everybody to see my work in case I don't ever come back. I want this to be to the world if I'm trying to change it, like it just makes sense to me. Like, it doesn't seem like it's for greed. It seems like I want my book out there. Now, turning down all the other offers to be on networks and whatever else, but then, continuing the book sales, that makes sense.
Yeah, I hear you.
So yeah. So anyway, he did end up coming back 5 months later. Again, camera down the street caught him walking back to his house. I guess he was barefooted. He knocked on the door. It was like 5:30 in the morning. And I guess he was like knocking on the door, ringing the bell like over and over. I did find this part kind of funny. So he's sitting out there, and I'm thinking like, I mean, what a weird scenario. You know what I mean? Like, you've been gone and you're just like banging on your door, and your parents are home. Nobody's coming to the door.
Barefoot and downtrodden 5 months later.
Yeah.
Like, I just came back from a spiritual awakening.
So he goes to the neighbor. The neighbor calls his dad, and his dad comes to the door. So I was like, so your son's missing, and the doorbell's just going off the chain. But I mean, I guess there could have been a lot of journalists that were wanting a story and whatever else. But anyways, dad comes, and then like his dad claims it was the best Father's Day present. I guess it was, or that he could ever have his son back, this and that. But yeah, so he just popped up at 5 a.m. after 5 months. Super strange.
That's insane.
And then later, and so he did make, like, again, he did make the top 24 of book sales in Brazil. And then he did have an interview. They said, I couldn't find it. So pound search it. If you can, send it to the Lost Info podcast.
If you can find it, we'll send you a free t-shirt.
Yeah.
We'll send you a Lost Info t-shirt.
I would,
like just like this.
Well, honestly,
we can't find it anywhere online. So we would like to have that interview, and we can attach to this for future viewers.
So that's another thing. We will have things coming, like I told you in the past. We do have a lot of things coming up. We do have the vacation giveaway, which is basically a topic of people's choice. Now, if you like this topic, we could go down to Brazil and we could meet Bruno Borges and have an interview with him. All if you win the drawing. That'll all be coming up in the show notes. Is the stuff you can help us out with. We're going to skip the advertising part on this episode, but it will be coming soon. We got a lot of things coming up. We got a kids book coming up. All the purchases of the kids book will also enter you into the drawing. So there's multiple ways that you can get involved. Again, if you have any questions, the Lost Info Podcast at gmail.com. And if you can find that interview, the Lost Info Podcast at gmail.com. But so with that being said, I think we will move to Off the Fence. And Jacob, why don't you take that away on your Off the Fence?
I have, for the last 4 years, firmly believed that something extraterrestrial is going on here. And I cannot get off of that. So I believe that just look up a picture of Bruno Borges and Bruno.
Well, I mean, Canaan.
Yeah, but look at the philosopher. Like they literally
they're very similar. Very
striking
similar.
with some of the jawline, the nose, the eyes.
Well, I mean, even the fact that you guys have the same name is like, what the fuck?
Right, but they look quite identical.
Yeah.
So and for him to come back, like, I don't believe that the same person came back, because the person that left isn't the person that's with us today. If that makes sense. It's a physical form. I think that if you drove your car to the party.
You mean Bruno Borges before disappearing?
Correct.
And then okay.
Correct. I don't think that they are the same person. I think that it is the same vehicle of that physical form, but I do not believe that it's the same person.
Okay, fair enough.
I am a full believer in what he's saying is true.
Okay. My off the fence. I personally think that he might be the reincarnation of the Giordano Bruno, and they do look similar. I think that what had happened in previous times was the philosopher had opened his mind and got to a level of knowledge that was sacred, and then obviously killed for trying to promote that in the times.
Because it's against the Lord.
And the soul had a purpose and a mission to finish, and said, I need to reincarnate because I still got shit to do on this planet, and I got to get to my full potential and let the people know about what I didn't get to, and that was why I was killed. So I do believe that is the reincarnation of him. I think that what this gentleman, Bruno Borges, did was phenomenal, but I think it was transferred knowledge from the past. And then
there you go.
Basically, he went and just doubled down and did find insight and what he's looking for. Now, had he come back with a philosopher's stone or something, would have been phenomenal. So he could put everybody's naysayers to bed. But however, that didn't happen. But I do believe that he came back very knowledgeable and kind of in the search of what he was looking for. So, different, like Jacob said, it'd be a different consciousness. It'd be the same person, just not really, because it's different consciousness.
The way that I personally look at it, like you look at it like this, like your vehicle. I love that. Your vehicle, your car outside.
Well, I was gonna say, look at you from a baby till now.
Yeah, but if
I'm not the same person as I was then. I'm way more knowledgeable and way different.
You're a completely different person.
Yeah, and I think it's the same thing.
But if somebody jumps into your car, like that's your car. But if somebody gets into that car, you know what I'm saying, with the same information, that car has stored information in it. Like you're just a vehicle. Like
and I think once you evolve, you definitely change the person you are. I mean, if you think about you as a teenager,
regardless if it's just a more enlightened Bruno that came back,
you're still a different Bruno.
Consciousness in that Bruno.
Well, you're a way better Bruno.
Still a different Bruno.
Which I hope that everybody is trying to make themselves a better you.
Right.
And that's exactly, so I'm kind of on the same exact thing. I just
think you're gone for 5 months. That's significant.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, I know that people kind of write that off, but I'm saying, like, this guy, I don't think gave a shit to promote that he was gone for 5 months. I think that was his mission and his thing. If I could dedicate 5 months to being a better me and doing meditation and do whatever I had to do to find me,
where did he go?
I'd fucking do it. But
where did he go for those 5 months?
We feel like we're so tied down, and me being included in this, it's just, there's no way I could leave. I got so much shit going on here. There's no way I could leave for 5 months.
Right.
But he didn't tie himself to the worldly shit. So I think it's great. And I think that, writing somebody off, claiming that they're a philosopher, even if he wasn't the philosopher from the ancient times, but a new philosopher, why we write people that are fucking on a different level of thinking, which is more inspiring. I don't get it.
We always write them off because we can't understand it.
So I'm on the same, on the off the fence is I buy this. I buy Bruno Borges' story. I'm in on it. I'd love to interview him. So hopefully one of the winners of the vacation giveaway for their podcast of choice, wherever in the world, might want to choose this one because it would be fun.
Make sure you have your passports.
But if you guys all, get involved in all this when it comes up, and in the next year, it's really going to be coming forward full blast. We'll be able to do multiple. So we'll be able to go to multiple places with different guests and a guest of theirs. So a +1, rather, on whoever gets drawn in the drawings. And so we'll have a kid's book. So it doesn't feel like you're just giving money. You can just buy the kid's book and then you go into the drawing. So we'll disclose all the details when that gets closer. The book's being done right now, and we're going to have more on that. We'll have a 3-part series. But with that case file, Bruno Borges, TLI approved. With that, we are not going to go into the joke section. We don't have much for today.
You can't joke about this shit because I don't want to.
I would if I had some.
Hey, I don't know.
was gonna
I
come
don't
up.
want to jeopardize my opportunity.
Well, I was gonna
to
come
go
up
meet
with
these-
some
these- you
cult
know,
jokes,
it's,
but well, we'll just leave it as
you're
it
not gonna
is.
drink the Kool-Aid. We're gonna move on.
Yeah, there you go. There's the joke. So we're gonna leave it as it is. This one, case file Bruno Borges, is finished, and we will see you on the next case file. As always, is keeping you awake, Jake.
And Jake.
Peace.